Good evening. Welcome to Asia Society Hong Kong Center. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know everyone's busy preparing for the storm and the traffic is terrible, so I really appreciate all of you being here. I'm Holly Smith. I coordinate the business and policy programs here. And we're delighted to have with us tonight Daniel Heyler and Fred Wong. Daniel returns to us for a follow-on program. His first program was last year in January, where he talked about the chip wars, and now he talks about AI wars and the dynamics of semiconductors in those in that space. So I just want to introduce both of them briefly, and then Fred will take the stage for his presentation. Fred Wong is founder of eFusion Capital, a hedge fund focusing on global technology stocks and AI. He has decades of experience in finance and in the semiconductor field as an IC designer and in management, including with UMC and Novatech. Fred is a columnist for the Economic Journal, and his personal interest is in decoding the secrets of the human brain source code. Very important stuff these days. Daniel Heyler is a senior analyst at EFM Asset Management, which invests in public and private AI and fintech companies. And prior to EFM, Dan was a portfolio manager at Izola Capital and an investor in the digital asset supply chain. Dan spent 17 years at Bank of America Merrill Lynch as Asia Tech Analyst and Global Semiconductor Coordinator. And he appears regularly on CNBC and Bloomberg to discuss semiconductors and AI. And we will start with, sorry, my notes are a little loud. Fred will focus on the downstream aspects of the industry, models and monetization of AI. And Daniel will then continue the presentation on where spending going and who's winning. And then we'll do a fireside chat and an open forum with your questions. So without further ado, Fred, please take stage.
Yeah, really thanks a lot for the invitation, and thanks Dan Heyler's invitation as well. Thanks Asia Society's trust and endorsement. And today we'll talk about the AI war, so I go into only 10 pages. So yeah, we can maybe most of us will agree that. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so all of us should be agreed that the gap is narrowing down for the past a decade, at least a decade. That the player, the U.S. players here, many news recently, right? I guess we'll have more coming out of the M&A and investment cooperation. And for China part is here. In terms of the quantity. The research paper also quite dominated by the China side, and yeah, these are the rough picture of the past the gap narrowing down. And this is a big picture. I'm going to mainly talk about this slide, the AI race. We follow the money. So today we are more focusing on the monetization from the AI pathway. Eventually, after 15 years, we will arrive the AGI, and maybe beyond AGI will be ASI, the artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. Suppose audience here sitting, all of us already have AGI because we are human, right? So we are already surpassed the AI, but AI is in a race to become a human-like. So from today, U.S. foundation model is dominating the world for the AI application and also the AI backstage, the source code and the software and also the semiconductor as well. And China is catching up quickly. I always say that US are on the 1A, tier 1A, and China is on the tier 1B. And the rest of the world should be tier 2, tier 3, no 1C, 1D. So they are very close, and the gap is narrowing down. And maybe after 10 years, we will see humanoid robots and autonomous driving, right? So the gap is not as big as before. Especially, you can see the Uni3 have doing fighting and battling and running on the course. So Tesla also doing a very good robotic system. So the gap is narrowing down as well. So after 10 years, another 10 years, I guess will be the quantum computers and the brain-computer interface. So everyone sitting here may have implanted chips in our brain. Quite likely, I think. But of course, we can choose. You can choose. I can choose. But I think most of the case, we don't need to go to school. And we'll pump in the knowledge. And the most important thing is wisdom, not knowledge. So we need the knowledge to distillate the wisdom. And that part, I think, still dominating by US companies, including Google, because that need a quantum computing and this kind of new technology still heavily leading by US companies and Microsoft. So my message is that at the end, all these are leading to AGI, and beyond that will be ASI. So before this, we can arrive here this point, we will benefit from these two segments. So how to monitor? Right now, we can see the US part, the monetization mainly through the API, the cloud API, the enterprise solution. These are the monetization model right now. Already make the share price goes up several times, or already many trillion market cap company right now, right? So I guess all of you have been doing well with the stock market, hopefully.
Explain API.
Yeah, API is the application interface, the application program interface. So that means there's a plug-in that you can connect the AI embedded into your system. To some extent, it's a B2B, so you cannot. It's not a B2C system. It's a B2B system. So it's already embedded, like YouTube. You can YouTube or other application. I will explain in later slides. Yeah. And for China, I guess many of you may be using those AI as well, right? And the monetization engine also, you can see API and also the enterprise part or the cloud. Yeah, so it's quite similar. And China AI have been catching up very, very fast. To some extent, some of their application, the range are even wider than US counterparts. Yeah. So, for example, Google, Meta, ByteDance, they are using the AI for suggesting the advertisement and the content to increase the user stickiness. So nowadays, you use YouTube or Instagram, you will see the information very related to your interest. And this is scaling law. And that's why Meta share price so strong, because the scaling law to make a unified model, a big unified model, instead of a separate small models at risk. So if Meta is successful doing that, a lot of advertiser will rely on Meta to deliver their message, because Meta on one hand will keep the users stickiness very high. On the other hand, they can charge higher price for reaching the users. The content of the advertisement will be can be monetized much easier. So that means you can help your clients to make money. So that's a very direct monetization method by the conversion, increasing the conversion rate. On the other hand, this is to kill SaaS model, because SaaS model originally they have a very constant cash flow, right? They can get a cash flow every month, every year, annually subscription. But after AI have entered this field, it become a utilization model. So it's a pay as you go. So those companies can no longer enjoy the subscription method. So I think that's a big threat to Salesforce and Adobe. And as I said, robots and robotaxi, FSD, like the Tesla. So before reaching AGI, Tesla can earn a lot from the software update, from the drive autonomous self-driving software. So this is very direct and easy to understand. I think everybody will see in the say the movie, in cinema, the Westwell, right? Already monetizing in Westwell. And of course, the humanoid robots not only using in factories, like right now the logistics center, control the inventory, to manage the inventory, like Jingdong. And in future, after maybe another 10 years, it will appear in our home, and you will have another things. So again, before reaching AGI or ASI, there will be two major milestones. These two major milestones will be a trillion market size. Trillion market size, and most of the big companies will pour enough money in it. Even though currently the AI model is not making enough money, the LLM is difficult to monetize. Even you spend a lot of capex every time you heard a quarterly result, they have a huge capex. But when you're talking about when we're referring to the revenue, it's tiny. It's very tiny. So why they still invest so much, and why investors still so excited about it? Because of achieving AI. Once they achieve AGI, they will be very successful, and they will, to some extent, to control the world. So as long as you can imagine that maybe, for example, Google, they own AGI. That means they have 100 Einstein to focus on how to make money for them and how to control global citizens. And of course, we'll be unemployed. We will be unemployed very, very fast. I guess this generation will be the last generation that we need to work. Later on, a lot of AI companies need to pay the AI tax, the UBI, Universal Basic Income, will distribute it to those who doesn't need to work. So a lot of people ask me what their kids better to choose, what kind of subjects to study in university. I say, relax. It doesn't matter, because no matter what subjects they choose, they don't need to work. Unluckily or luckily, I don't know. And the other thing, why I put it here is a fear, because many people are worried about that they don't have work, and how can they survive, blah, blah, blah. I think most of the country cannot afford. So they will charge Google, charge Microsoft, charge Tesla to pay huge tax for them to redistribute the wealth to those who do not need to work. And the other fear is that those companies will fall into power monopoly. So they become very big, and they can calculate your behavior, adapt to your hobby, and feed the information to you and then train you. This is what I learned from Westwell season, I forgot, season 3 or season 4. This will happen, not a joke or not just speculation. I think will happen. And on the other hand, is Greek, and Greek means our life expectancy will extend, will be longer and longer, and most of us I guess like that, but some of you feel you lie on the bed. No, you will be very healthy, walk on the street healthily. The life expectancy, because of AGI and ASI, it will extend, and then the diseases and genetic engineering as well. Yeah. So this is a big picture for me to bring to the for this further discussion. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Can't wait to not working. Can't wait for that. Thanks, Fred. That's awesome. The original schedule was for me to go first and talk about all the spending, and then have Fred talk about how they're going to make money on the spending. And I saw the slides, and I think it's good to see kind of where we're heading, big picture on use cases and monetization near term. What I wanted to address, and by the way, I look forward to getting into the Q&A and discussion. We're going to be able to run over if people want to. This is a huge topic, and I know an hour probably isn't enough to give it justice. So we'll be able to run over a little bit on Q&A, and if we do run over on Q&A, just feel free to leave anytime, but just don't leave during my presentation. But that's okay. You can leave later. Fred and I actually know each other for almost 2 decades. I just remembered we met in the washroom of Solomon Sistek. And we knew each other. I was on the sell side and he was on the buy side. And we actually did work together at eFusion for a bit as well as colleagues. What I thought I would first start out here is just talk about from a very specific standpoint, like what's new. There's not a whole lot that's new in the standpoint of where machine learning AI have been for quite some time. Almost 2 decades we've been seeing this in our phones and our ad recommendations and self-driving cars and software and e-commerce for sure. So there's kind of 3 stages, in a very simple level of first data that kind of got structured and kind of tells us what you bought, and you go in and recommend something you bought already, which isn't very useful, right? So there was a lot of taking data and making it structured has been stage 1. And then kind of AI has moved into this like cause effect, like if this happens, then what are the things you may do next? And is this causing this? Because otherwise, a lot of AI right now is a correlation and not necessarily causation. The next kind of big stage, and this is what we're entering, is when it says prescriptive. So this is a predictive case. This is going to just tell you actually what you should do. Fred talked a bit about that, where there's agency with the AI. Actually, you probably should go home now because the storm is coming, right? And that's all in your calendar. We're not there yet, but this gets exciting, right? And this is prescriptive, and I don't necessarily believe we have to be controlled by it. We could listen to our AI, but we don't have to. And so this is an exciting agency that we're in. As we've seen right now, where it's been adopted right now into the economy already, the first and foremost we've seen it is across automation, manufacturing. There's just anywhere there's lots of data, there's going to be lots of applications. So making manufacturing much more efficient and predictive, moving robots in the right area, making them really have the shortest distance, ordering systems within manufacturing, procurement. Now we're moving into a period where Jensen Huang is helping companies build a digital twin. So before you even build the factory, you can have a digital version of it and see how it's going to work before you actually spend all that CapEx and build the thing out. So all this is happening right now. The humanoid bit, in fact, there was a speaker here from MIT that I remember that talked about that, and he thought that was just way out there, and I think Fred talked about being way out there because the number of sensors that you actually need in these robots is off the charts, and so very difficult technology. So you don't have to stress too much yet. You're not going to be sleeping with a robot, I hope, anytime soon. So labor, this is actually, how many people are using AI yet? Like, anybody using it? How many people? Yeah, it's great, right? Try it with VPN, it's even better, right? Here in Hong Kong. So this is more an augmentation of what you're doing. I just find it super useful. You always have to double check your numbers, you have to cross check the sources, but I find it's evolving very, very fast. With Gemini now, I can ask a bunch of questions, simplified, and just hit sheets, and it goes right into my sheets. I've got a table ready to go in chart. So these things are evolving very quickly and very helpful. So I think anybody related to knowledge workers, and we've seen this already, right? We've seen, going through immigrations and customs and all these things are already. So all this AI is slowly coming in and just making things smoother, faster, cheaper, more convenient. And that's as an augmentation to existing human systems. And then financial sector has been adopting NLP for a while, language processing for quite some while, algo trading, and capital allocation is just going to be a lot more efficient companies across Taiwan. In fact, what's interesting about Taiwan is actually it produces the majority of these systems in the world. They're also downloading all the technology from NVIDIA and cooperating on the use cases and using AI to build more AI, right? It's like within TSMC there. And so these manufacturers are building it, using it, and building more of it as they get better. So this kind of winner-take-all thing in manufacturing, you can see why it is an arms race. You want to have plenty of compute. You want to be able to scale it quickly. And you're seeing that in share price performance. People keep saying, share prices, it's going to get broader and broader. And no, it's not. It's going to stay in these, within these winners. And then finally, the unknown areas, lots of new professions. So I'm an optimist, right? I think people want to create. I've seen just ad hoc conversations with creators, and they're using it for design. They have an idea, they type a word, and they get a few ideas going. You start to write an essay. MIT's promoting this. They want literature majors, everyone to use AI. They want you to start your essay, put a couple ideas out there, but take ownership of it, right? It's obviously plagiarism isn't a good thing, but be active agents with it, use it, scale it, and make yourself better while you're doing it. Okay, so I thought this was useful to kind of look at the spending, how it's been increasing and where it's going. Fred talked about APIs, which is going into software and making it accessible with the AI actually embedding into the systems itself. And that's where we've actually seen some of the push out, like that's the green area here. The blue area and green area. So 2 points to this. One is just over the course of 1 quarter, OpenAI massively raised their long-term forecast from 170 billion to, so that's a big, and where did they increase it? They actually, you see that they increased new products in their core business, and they became a little bit less optimistic about agents. Agents are tough, right? It's like on your phone, you've got different apps. Why can't you just have an agent say, go book my flight and do that for me? There's just a whole level of issues and legality, and what if they booked the wrong flight? So that's going to be a big hurdle. But when that happens, that will be super cool. But that's going to be 4 or 5 years at least out there. But they've increased their revenue target. But Wall Street's good at this. We're going to grow. Revenue is even better. But sorry, we're spending a lot more money. They actually, in terms of free cash flow, just on 1 quarter basis, even a longer period, and a massive increase in their forecast of negative free cash flow. And investors seem to be believing in winner take all kind of scenarios. They'll believe it until they don't believe it. I think at some point investors are going to want to see monetization. But right now we're in kind of this bubble mentality. We're building. Everybody has to build faster. Huge increases in computer-related expenses was number 1 for the increase. They're also investing in their own AI custom chips. So that's an increased huge cost in custom AI. Make it very specific for what they want to do. So they don't pay NVIDIA a lot with their standard off-the-shelf systems. They want to build so that's a lot of upfront cost, but they think in the long run that's going to be the cheaper way to go with their own custom chips. And then they've got the Stargate expenditure there as well. I'll send you the slides. So you've also been hearing a lot about sovereign AI. You're going to see a huge disconnect. The actual bottoms-up number for China is a much lower number. So these are what countries are talking about for their spending. The U.S. at 471. That's a crazy number in terms of between the 2 superpowers. It just dwarfs all the other countries. A big issue in Europe, by the way, energy is a big one, right? Europe just doesn't have enough power to drive these things. They're going to have to build small nuclear reactors and hope that there's an end to the war, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of infrastructure that actually is needed to scale up sovereign AI. Sovereign AI, by the way, it's about countries keeping their data within their borders. Obviously, very important from a sovereignty standpoint and protecting your citizens' data, personal data, and not being invaded by somebody's high-power AI system. So that's it. Okay. So this is kind of where the spending has been going. If you took by kind of key application area, if you kind of took the ChatGPT inflection point, which was in 22, everybody's been hearing about the hardware spend, how big it is, and how the capex is big, but no, we forget that there's been a lot of expenditure in software, and this has been. Fred talked a bit about that, the API ecosystems, but bringing AI into your existing software is really expensive. Compatibility issues. You have to build whole new models, and you have your company-specific model, and then you have your algorithm, your AI model, and those have to work together. And so this is kind of going to be a slog for enterprise. So are people expecting this huge pop in enterprise spending? You think you need to incorporate that into your assumption as more of a gradual build, and in the enterprise space, it's not going to be a hockey stick like it has been with the cloud service providers that already have AI in place, and they're just scaling it even faster. But enterprise is another animal. It's going to be slow and steady. So now, how big is the spending? So huge amount of actual dollar spend. In percentage of GDP, actually doesn't feel like that 5% is a big number. If you kind of think, well, in absolute terms, I'll show you some charts that look very scary in the amount of spending that's taking place. But if you think about how pervasive AI could actually be, in the economy, 5% doesn't seem like a big number. I was a semi-analyst for over 20 years. Investors would say, I'm not positive on semis because I can't think of the next application. Well, the technology always drives the application. Gordon Morris said the killer application is your rearview mirror, because it comes up behind you and you don't anticipate. We didn't anticipate the iPhone. We didn't anticipate Wi-Fi, internet, self-driving cars. So technology will drive the applications, and content also increases in existing applications. So Coke machine used to be dumb. Now it's smart. It can predict. It can take inventory. It sends things straight to the factory. So you have penetration, and then you have new applications. So you get two vectors of growth, and 5% is a very low number. Okay, so the title of our chart, of this chart is comparing China and the U.S. This presentation was really getting down, and we'll get into when we get to the fireside chat about who's going to win, who's going to lose, where's China, where's the U.S. in this war, right? So from a standpoint of scale of actual spending, what you're looking at here is total spending in 2 years. And because it's a time series, this is telling you how the forecasts have increased over time. So in December, the forecast for 2025 was here, and by September of this year, the forecast for this year capex went up massively to 430. So the forward forecasts for 25 and the forward forecast for 2026 from U.S. players has been continuously rising. However, in China, you can see we kind of peaked out. It's number one. It's a much smaller number. You would think when you read all the media how somehow China's going to take over the U.S. and everything else. You've got to look at numbers. Use AI more in the future because media is increasingly noisy, and I find it increasingly useless. Yeah, and thank goodness for AI. Just do your homework because this is a very small number in relation to here in terms of where it's happening. And I think there's a lot to do with some of it is controls on technology imports. Some of it is the inability to produce enough domestically. And Fred talked about the models. The models are definitely interesting, clever, developing, but not yet deployed. Okay, so how's this going to be paid for? What you're looking at here is the actual spending over the next 6 months over what the operating income is expected for these companies. So as percentage of operating income, they just keep spending in relation to operating income, hoping that at some point that number is going to go down and they actually will realize those gains and operating income will exceed the rate of growth in revenue. Here we had the Meta moment. I think that was Meta talk about the metaverse. Whoops, Zuckerberg. Never mind, that was a bad idea. So he cut his spending. But here he is again. You know, he's got the glasses coming, and we've got but total U.S. hyperscalers, which is cloud service providers and hyperscalers, are spending 80% of revenue over operating. That is a phenomenal. That's just a very big number. So how are we going to build all this capacity that we need for AGI and for chips are not going to be able to do it because chip scaling is way too expensive. Moore's law is over. You can't double performance every 18 months anymore. That's been dead for a while. So the scaling that's taking place to get performance, and NVIDIA saw this coming very early. NVIDIA decided to become a system company. When Jensen asked Michael Dell, hey, do you want to design our AI system? He said, no, we're not interested. So Michael Dell went to Quanta. A guy named JJ Lin said, yeah, well, I'll do it. So he designed the first AI system. And at that point, NVIDIA decided, let's just build systems. We can't trust anybody else. We're going to build our own system. We're going to scale this system. And when I mean scale, you mean it all comes down to tokens per watt. A token is basically the AI compute. And the token per watt had improved 72%. And the next generation, which is coming next year, is an increase of 37%. That's a phenomenal improvement in economics, right? But how do you get there? You don't get there at the chip level. You're getting through for memory, through bandwidth, through board level. So a little bit too technical, this chart, but just the big takeaway is it's all about these massive systems which cost a lot of money. So these systems that NVIDIA puts out there, this is the oldest one. That was $400,000. Now you're into $4 million, right? And just in a matter of like 3 years. $4 million for the latest system. And that's because they're delivering economics. And I think Jensen Huang's favorite statement is, the more you buy, the more you save. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal salesman, right? It's just like, okay, all right, that makes sense, right? Don't tell your wife that, right? It's like, yeah. All right, so where's the rest of the world down here? Way behind. Because there's still single chip-based systems. They're not system-based. NVIDIA's, AMD's working on a rack scale solution with the Taiwanese partners maybe in a couple of years. And then there's in-house competitors that are coming in. And we'll see how this plays out. They don't like paying this kind of money to NVIDIA. They want to do their own in-house chips. So Google has their chip. There's a lot of kind of news flow in Taiwan that this is going to be very strong in the next coming years, whereby they're doing their own chips for their own specific applications. Apple's had an MP for a while. Grok has their own, and we'll see. Again, these work with very kind of specific narrow applications. When it comes to when a huge system's taking everything in and getting smarter and better and everything else, I think NVIDIA still is in a very strong position. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Now, everyone seems to believe, and this is going to get into our fireside chat, that China can't get access to chips, right? We've seen this, and chip controls, and U.S. is restricting China, and it's this, it's like this matrix, right? This idea that it's a war. We called this a war. Wars sell newspapers, they sell books. Chris Miller's book on the chip war, I detested that book because it framed everything in these wars. And the reality is, you've got geopolitics, you have tech controls, you have newspapers that like narratives. But Fred and I come from this industry and we talk to companies. Okay, so in China, these are websites. Okay, you can buy as many H100s or 200s on a website in China that you need, right? You can get it through buying individual systems, or you can rent. The rental hour, so the monthly rental, my friend in Taiwan tells me if you rent a server, an AI server in China, it's $7,000. It's $30,000 in the US. There's plenty of AI capacity in China if you need it. And the idea that you can shut this off is a myth. You cannot shut off. And this is the beauty. We live in Hong Kong. We love free market capitalism. I was just telling Holly, I want to invent a field of economics in my next life, and it's called, water economics, because water flows down when there's a need. stuff happens. And in Asia, that's the beauty of Asia. Stuff gets done, stuff gets sold. So let me show you. Let me show you something in terms of what we know publicly. So Jensung says, oh, China used to be 15% of revenue. Due to these tariffs, it's now 5% of revenue. You know, we can't sell chips to China, right? And okay, all right. So take NVIDIA's U.S. revenue and all other countries, right? If you divide this number by this number, the growth rate of this has been almost exactly the same. 73% growth in U.S. since the first quarter of 2025, 73. This is 72% growth in non-U.S. purchase of chips. Suddenly, was there this new AI superpower that appeared somewhere, you know, outside of China? Like, have you heard of it? Yeah, it was Singapore, right? Because the chips went through Singapore. So, you know, it's happening. We should be optimists because this is a good thing. You know, we want companies to do business. We want cheaper AI for ourselves. We want China to flourish. We want U.S. to flourish. And we want companies to succeed. So you can see my bias towards free market capitalism, and we're seeing it here in AI. So with that, I think we'll open up to some questions that Fred and I were going to get into. So we can put up the... So next, you can do the next one. So these were the topics that we attempted to address, hopefully. What are the drivers of the infrastructure? I think we addressed that, how monetization is happening, how the industry is adapting, the strengths, weaknesses of both, I think we kind of addressed, and some of the win-win outcomes. Let me talk about a win-win outcome here, and then we'll get into questions. And Fred's going to join me. We're going to ask each other questions, and you can ask us questions. But when I was on the CNBC, it kind of came to me, an idea quickly came to me on, you know, trying to make this simple for people in relation to history. And I remember in the smartphone industry, it was kind of like, so anyway, this idea of that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose is this new kind of like consciousness that somehow has just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And, you know, but if you actually look at what has happened in the past, the cell phone industry, when it came into feature phones, was predominantly Western chips, right? MediaTek was the Taiwan company. It was very strong in feature phones. And we moved to the smartphone era. And the smartphone era, which was 4G hit, you had access to internet. China transformed. You had mobile internet in people's pocket. E-commerce transformed. All of these companies were invented. You know, e-commerce, their share prices went through the ceiling for a decade. And that was on predominantly like Western chips that actually transformed China because they were so good at commercializing e-commerce. It's so data intensive. It's so consumer intensive. And they built very clever apps and applications in the smartphone industry. And there was Huawei. Huawei came in, you know, a bit later. They did a lot of infrastructure and they had their own phone. But it wasn't because Huawei. I mean, all of these, there was Qualcomm, MediaTek, and even there were 5 other U.S. companies that actually, got out of the business. So I think with AI, I kind of feel the same thing. I think China has so much to gain from access to global technology and access to as many chips as possible and systems from NVIDIA and buying they can't get the latest, right? They are getting a lot of good GPUs, but they're not getting the latest. And I think the standpoint that they would, you know, their end markets would really, you know, benefit and grow, and that would help drive obviously U.S., you know, hardware sales as well. So to me, that would be a win-win that we can think about. We've seen it before. Will it happen? We'll see. But that has happened in the past, and you know, it's been a significant win-win for both China and the U.S. when actually there is more free trade.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We'll go next question. Do the next slide. So maybe you can ask. We got a question here. Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Keep you guys awake.
Yeah.
So open up the question.
So I heard you say that if AI puts something in our calendar, like we have to go home because the storm is coming, we don't have to follow that advice. We don't have to do what AI says. I'm just wondering if that's a little bit naive, because isn't history full of people doing just what is easiest and just, my real question is, how do we keep AI under control so that people don't just start relying on it too heavily?
Yeah, I'll pass it to Fred too. I think he's in your camp, but I don't know. I watched a lot of TV as a kid, right? I mean, I think it was 4 hours, right? Yeah, Brady Bunch and all. I'm dating myself, but we just like hours. But I think I came out as a critical thinker. I don't know, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, it is going to require the education community to really address this and focus. It is wisdom. It's about insight. It's about morality is going to be important. Maybe I think open forums even more important. Right? Getting things out there. So when you look at the young generation, it is scary and a little bit depressing. To me that they're just on their phones all the time and very addictive. So it is with us now, and I think this is a wake up call. We do need to address this soon. But I like MIT's approach, and hopefully we'll start to see more of that kind of model. Like, this is AI, we want originality. We're not going to be afraid of it, and let's just take control of it and move forward.
When I was young, I go to library to look for the encyclopedia, and this previous generation, people are doing Google search, and now people are using AI to get the immediate answer, and also visit the YouTube all the time. So the attention span of AI is getting longer and longer, and users, just us, attention span will be shorter and shorter. So to some extent, knowledge is no more important, because globally, I think no one can compete with AI's knowledge base. AI's knowledge base can cover anything, but they don't have a strong causality, as Dan mentioned. Right now, it's all about more about correlation, and correlation because of transformer. The transformer is about the matrix multiplication. So at the end, it's still the correlation and pretend to have the strong reasoning, but not the case. So remaining, what will be left will be the wisdom. AI is still lacking of strong creativity because of the wisdom. So I think, but because of the attention span getting shorter and shorter, I mean human majority, we will get used to this phenomenon more and more, and then majority of people will enjoy the lay down. In Chinese, we lay down. we do nothing, and then enjoy the UBI, universal basic income, and watch the movie every day, watch the YouTube every day.
I slightly differ, and it's a fireside chat, so I got to pretend I'm disagreeing. Seriously, I think the better my questions, the better the answers. I mean, critical thinking, which kind of seems to have been put aside for a while. I think liberal arts will come back, right? The critical thinking, like the why behind the question, and the cross-checking and different perspectives. So I do think these are tools, and we just need to embrace them and effectively get. I mean, I taught a course at PolyU for a bit. It was a capstone project, and I was surprised that PolyU would take the essay. Take someone's essay and they run it through their system, and it had to pass the internet. What's it called? I was like, what's it called? The similarity index. And so if it was, what is it, 40% or something? 20%. If 20% looked like it was copied off the internet, I was amazed the software was available. If 20% looked like it was, not original, it wouldn't pass that originality. So use AI to monitor this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have an AI index?
And my view is to use the knowledge to distillate wisdom. It's to fully use AI's knowledge database to distillate our wisdom. So this is the high-dimensional thinking way instead of the multi-dimensional. In our school, we always learn a lot of our knowledge is no more important. I think to distillate knowledge to wisdom is the most important thing, which is the high-dimensional thinking instead of the multi-dimensional thinking. Because AI is very strong in multi-dimensional. Yeah.
Morphing into philosophy here. This is great. Any question's a good question.
So I had quite a different question, and it's sort of prompted by the top point as, is this a bubble? Like, this feels hella bubbly to me. Like, LLMs are spectacularly unreliable. And like, it's one thing if I want to use it to like help me edit a document. It's an entirely different thing. Say I'm like a precision parts manufacturer. I can't integrate something into my processes that's going to hallucinate the parts sizes. And then, you know, we're saying, oh, well, we might have AGI in like 10, 15, 20 years. But like LLMs were a massive, massive tech surprise. And like, do we really think it's going to move this fast? And I guess the thing I'd be really interested in from both of you is like, what like signals are you looking out for that like this might be a bubble, or actually, no, this is really going to move as fast as we say it is?
Thanks for that question. We'll do a survey at the end, and then I'll go adjust my portfolio, continue to the bulls and the bears. We'll divide you guys up. No, I think I'm constantly, having been through a couple bubbles already. When I joined Merrill Lynch was right in '99, going into the internet bubble. We had stocks trading at 150 times forward 2-year earnings or something. It was just like buy, strong buy. So yeah, I mean. And I look around PMs, they're in their 20s and 30s. They haven't seen it. So I'm with you on that. We need to, at some point, investors are going to want to see the money. And we're at the very upper levels right now of that. So what do I look for? I'm continue to spend a lot of time looking at the companies downstream. You hear how they're using it, and like a company like Tempest that's. Doctors are giving the data to the hospitals, and they're able to. Doctors are using their eyes to measure cancer, X-rays and MRIs, and now they're using AI. And so when you start to see the monetization, but we need to see that in a much broader sense. And I think 26 potentially could be a pause. I think my kind of assumption is that we do get a pause in 26, and then 27 is when inference. All those companies working on their models today, enterprise models, and the 26 you start to see a pickup in inference. So, but great question. Every day I think about it and keep looking for monetization, which is why I brought Fred to help me understand monetization.
Yeah, I think it depends on the catalyst. Because continuously, if we have news catalyst to tell us the future prospect or bright prospect of the coming products, then our dopamine will continue to secrete, and we are very high, and wow, we cannot miss out, blah, blah, blah. But it's it's couple decades away for AGI. So in near term will be the robotics, including the robotaxi. That we rely on Elon Musk to keep saying that, oh, Trump, give me some more money to blah, blah, blah. And one more I highlighted in Meta, which is the AI glasses, which is a hybrid. Between LLM and AGI, there will be some hybrid that AI will be assist us, just like AI agent, to deliver as a term in terms of AI glasses, maybe. That will be another catalyst for investor to become very excited again, because wow, AI glasses. So nowadays nobody talk about AR glasses. They change the name already. They suddenly change the name, they become a new thing, or AI glasses.
So we've seen we've seen people talk about how much they're saving using AI, right, in manufacturing and efficiencies, and that's been and the advertisement, advert efficiency, but that's making something existing just get better. Who's actually making revenue? Direct revenue, who's making the most money in just AI per se?
I think Meta, because of translating into the revenue generating for their clients, because increasing the hit rate, as I mentioned, and also in terms of hardware will be the autonomous driving and those software you can be you can.
How about the Chinese players in e-commerce?
Yeah, Chinese player, I guess, will happen from Unit 3. Brain computer, maybe still a long way to go, but robotic may be one of the deliverable that they may achieve in near term, yeah.
This was a hot topic 18 months ago. I don't know. So you guys have heard about this whole chip war. Maybe I should address that. I think it's in the news a lot. Like, if you read the South China Morning Post, it kind of feels like China's on the cusp of taking over the world semiconductor industry, right? But so it's been really hard for China to build its own semiconductor capacity. This is obviously a geopolitical. U.S. wants more manufacturing of servers, wants more semiconductors. China needs more semiconductors within China to not depend on Taiwan or the U.S. So huge amount of effort put there. But very limited progress on that front because of the inability to really get the most leading edge semiconductor equipment tools, EUV and DUV. So China's probably about 4 generations behind. This idea of catch up is also one that just doesn't happen in semis. I mean, and it didn't happen in an open ecosystem. In the U.S., Intel didn't catch up. Intel just got further and further behind TSMC. The other companies, got out of the business because it was too expensive. And it wasn't just about the technology. I mean, a lot of companies could have gone to the next node. It's just, did you have enough volume in products to rationalize that amount of cost in R&D to go to the next node? So the foundry model is always about asset efficiency and technology and efficiency. So TSM just gets bigger and bigger and more powerful. They use AI, right? So Intel, so I think that's is a negative. I said a win-win case and very negative case. Perhaps that China just says that's intolerable. We have to have TSMC, and then you have a war. The cost to China and the world economy would be unprecedented. That kind of like miscalculation to try to start a war over TSMC. So it'd be very detrimental. But so just because this was my talk 18 months ago, at that time my counterpart was arguing it was going to happen because China wants to do it, they'll do it, they're being forced to do it, so therefore they're going to do it. And I was kind of like, no, it's not that easy. It's much of the IP is within TSMC. It really is. There's a lot of secret sauce in semiconductors. So the yields are very low and whatnot. But those stocks would suggest something else is going on, because they seem to keep going up. And I think that's the dream that there'll be a breakthrough.
Yeah, I want to echo with you, totally agree with you, that the semiconductor progress or the advancement actually is high-dimensional thinking. From 0 to 1 is high-dimensional. From 1 to 100 is multidimensional. Okay. Yeah, just...
Question in the back. Oh, sorry. And also on semis, the scaling bit is TSM is moving, because they're putting multiple chips on actually substrates, because just integrating more and more on a chip is getting too expensive. So they're moving this entire ecosystem to doing chiplets, and so it's amazing what they're able to do, and they're doing it with all their Taiwan partners. So it's positive insofar the economics of the industry are going to continue chugging along and helping us deliver AI systems, which is important. So you need the scaling, and that continues because of the full system approach, and it's all concentrated on Taiwan. So that's a positive. But for the marginal semiconductor players, bad news. Thank you. Question?
Yeah, just a follow-up to what you just described on the semiconductor space. Do you think the limitations on basically producing the sort of the cutting edge semiconductor chips, moving past right now, they've been stuck with 7 nanometers for a while now. Moving past that would be a huge bottleneck for China to advance in the AI space? Or I think from your talk earlier, you seem to hold the opinion that it doesn't really matter in the future because, I don't know, because of clustering or, because, maybe the example of Huawei, what they did last week is an example. Like they invented this huge clusters that can combine like more sort of legacy chips all together to form a bigger data computing unit, something like that.
Yeah, so I'll address that, Fred. I'm sure Fred can comment too. The chips, what they're doing, they do these chip-to-chip benchmarks, and they look okay. But when you actually start to put them in these systems, they heat up and they burn up. And also, NVIDIA has a whole CUDA ecosystem of developers for over a decade. That's a software. So it's a whole range of things. I would say, to make the short answer, the biggest threat to China's AI development and applications and transforming the economy is policy. I won't say a specific person's name, but it's policy. And that's like, well, I showed you they can get the chips and people want to get the chips. We had a company in our office that say, well, we're worried to buy the chips because they're telling us don't buy from NVIDIA. So if companies get afraid that somehow local, bureaucrat will come and like find them or something, and because if it goes to the next level, so far it's been functioning, and if it goes to extreme geopolitics, like, no, we got to do this ourselves, and we're gonna sink the ship trying. Yeah, they'll sink the ship, all right. Yeah.
Yes, I similarly, I think China have been doing very well on scaling up the capacity and reuse some of the mature technology, and that is multiple dimensional way to do it. So invention or technology movement step by step, and it's not just about craftsmanship. It's also about the reasoning and causality and the stringiness, or the how you handle things logically. This is the way to evolve the technology.
So what they've been doing with the 5 and 7 nanometer is, because the yields are low, they just bought more tools. And so if you get 20% yield, so they are getting chips out, but it's 20% yield out of it. And so it's pure brute force. But that's not sustainable. You actually have to get chips out of TSMC. I mean, China's got very strong design. They should just be designing these chips and producing them at TSMC. But they're not allowed to.
Yeah, I think today we've made a lot of AI as a user industry for the semiconductor industry and driving the demand. But I'm curious as to your views and the views from the industry on its use as a knowledge input, and how it seems right now that the industry is very winner takes all, and that it's your view that there aren't going to be very many significant shakeups. But I guess why would AI not have a significant impact on that, given the transformational nature that's been outlined by Fred earlier on?
I think it's about still the similar questions. It's about the pattern, because hardware is quite different, and semiconductor is the core of the hardware. So it's about the pattern, the IP, the know-how, and also a lot of causality within the system. For internet, it's different. For software, it's different. You seldom see software company file a lot of patents, because once they file the patent, they tell the secret to everyone. That's what happening in AI world. That's what happening in the source. They disclose the source code. That's why you can refer to the code quickly. And I always say that you like a noodle. If you disclose the recipe, then your competitor can take a reference, fully take a reference, and then produce another noodle come out. So, but semiconductor is totally different. It's a hierarchy. It's a high-dimensional thinking way. It's not multidimensional. That's why it is so difficult. The core thinking method is, the DNA inside is totally different. It's a cooperative work, and as Dan mentioned, the why NVIDIA still dominating in the AI world, not because only the chip, because of CUDA, and also the compiler library, and a lot of things that they have already planted in during the crypto era, and also planted in GPU processing era. The shit, those are the more than 1 decade's work. It's not suddenly come out. So I think the key is the thinking logic is different. It's not the application method is different. It's the thinking logic is different. That's why the designer, the thinking method need to be changed. If I need to address more directly, the thinking logic of human need to be changed.
And it's interesting to look at these ecosystems. I grew up like watching Silicon Valley and Taiwan, very connected, right? And TSMC always called themselves open innovation platform. TSM was in the business of enabling, they would take small companies to do their business. They would do for everyone. Morris Chang put up a chart. I worked there a year, and he put an internal chart in, and he said he showed the top 5 customers every 5 years were different. And that's a company that's incubating constant. But that requires working with design IP companies, chip designers, your equipment companies, helping them come along. So this is kind of a within China, because of it's a different form of economics, right? Kind of like Japan, more vertically integrated, like Samsung's vertically integrated. China's kind of this vertical, and so in this vertical integration world where Huawei can do something because they're given unlimited money, they hire all these designers, they do everything they can, reverse engineer, whatever. EV, solar, these verticals, it works. It's just kind of like just scale it and do it internally. In the world of AI, I think they kind of more the open innovation ecosystem, like Taiwan, Silicon Valley software, will flourish. China on the application side could really flourish on the use cases and the applications, because of the obviously connectivity is there, the use cases are there, massive use cases. E-commerce opportunity is there. This could be a huge boom if there was, again, the AI. Jensen always talks great about the models in China. The AI models are clever and specific use cases. So very much like the smartphone. You just had unlimited applications, and Facebook was copying WeChat all the time, right, on there. So that could be a positive outcome.
Thank you, Fred and Daniel. I'm Candice. So really interesting presentation. Thank you very much. My next question is actually directly related to investment, because you're both investment manager. So I want to know what investment you've made related to AI so far, and what's the result so far, and what's next for you. Thank you.
Potential client. Fred first.
We have been speaking about NVIDIA and those chips for many years, and also recorded in our YouTube. There's evidence there. And right now, our biggest position is in some EMS, which is tailor-make those AI data center for servers. So like Celestica, a small name maybe to most of people, and similar to Foxconn, but more focused on tailor-making system for US supply, the cloud computing companies here. And also some others are quite common, and also we've also focused on some derivative of the AI products as well. Those have higher leverage in the bull market. But at the end, maybe the bubble will go bust. But now we see the emotion still very high. So don't miss. I think don't miss the wave, because everybody's so excited. Still, some way to go. Yeah, some.
So it's a big supply chain, like I showed you, right? From applications, use cases, businesses that are benefiting from it. So there's the beneficiaries, and I tend to just try to be very valuation sensitive. Easier said than done, but seeing where you could actually rotate. So you start with the whole supply chain, from energy, nuclear, what's going to be required to build this out. And obviously semiconductors, pick your winners, or if you're not sure, get a basket of them. I think even in crypto, makes sense there. That is related to AI, I think, digital assets. So take a basket. Or when there's a case, I remember I was really, win some, lose some, but Google is one I was happy about because I was like, this stock is so cheap, and there's, they have so much core technology from quantum and the ability to. I was just sitting there annoyed trying to build a table, and I couldn't export it on Perplexity. And somebody's got to figure this out. I want to export all this data, and then Google's going to figure it out. And like a month later, it was a new feature that. No, but I think Google has a really powerful ecosystem. So kind of core holdings, and then try to find some really companies that suddenly are appearing that are beneficiaries and applying AI. So you have to listen to a lot of conference calls. I guess that's it.
And also ARM, I'm a columnist and it's a part-time job, and I wrote an article this morning about ARM because SoftBank's Masayoshi-san and Masayoshi-san and then NVIDIA Jensen are so friendly, and they cut out a deal. I guess and after SoftBank invested in Intel, then NVIDIA invests at the same price. I guess the next step will be ARM, maybe. So ARM may be a possible candidate for AI's AI circle, AI's food chain.
I worked at Merrill Lynch for 17 years, and I was always told by compliance that you're not allowed to give specific stock recommendations in public. So I apologize. No. I'm not a fan of ARM, actually. We'll see.
Thank.
But then you're still saying that Intel can't catch up with TSMC; they're so far behind. So what do you think of this NVIDIA investment in Intel? And related to this question, can US build its domestic and semiconductor base? Obviously, President Trump is trying to reindustrialize.
Yeah, great. So two questions there. I think on Intel, that was a company that I just loved to hate for many years, right? And when AMD kind of came out with a new design, and they were, Lisa Su came in, and they started to produce at TSMC, that was like $17. And I told all my friends, everybody hates Intel, they're a monopoly, they have 9% gross margins, and I told all my friends, bought it for my mom, but I think 2 friends listened to me, so that was one of, but nothing's changed. I think Intel, they'll get some money. That is going to enable them to do a little bit with NVIDIA. I think enterprise will probably want an integrated GPU, CPU kind of thing, but I think this is Jensen probably helping Trump out. I've never seen a CEO that had so many skill sets, from EQ to, right? He's an ambassador. You name it. He's a politician. He's a salesman. He's selling a lot of chips to China and pretends he doesn't know about it.
Thanks for sharing, Fred and Dan.
What was the other question
here?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was, and I think a lot of investors shared my initial skepticism, like, TSMC shouldn't do that. It's not going to work. It's the U.S., Americans. Morris was very negative on American manufacturing. He didn't want to do it. And so I was concerned, that may not work. But when TSMC initially decided to make it very huge, and what if they could build scale, I've been surprised how fast they've done it, and how big they're going to be in Arizona. And that's been a game changer because the rest of the Taiwan ecosystem is going to move, right? The Honhai is moving, all the suppliers to Honhai. So I think this is a turning point for U.S. manufacturing, actually. I think, you've got, Taiwan produces 40% of the value of electronics in the world, right? If they're moving into the U.S., that's a big piece.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Fred. Dan, I think Dan, you mentioned that you have the preference, or you have the bias towards free market. My question will be related to that. Is that we can see that now the top players for AI, they're all private companies. And now within AI becomes a national competition. I do believe more and more like SOEs or government money will be involved in the whole sector. And do you see that will be a trend to become the industry more efficient or towards a more negative way? Because we all see that several years ago when it comes to the chips competition, we saw a lot of bad stories, especially from China. And now recently, due to the geopolitical competition, I think the same methodology might be applied not only just to China, but to US as well, right? Especially Taiwan plays a very important part in the whole industry. Taiwan can be a leverage on both parties. And how do you see that? It will be a place for everyone just wasting money, wasting power, and we get a shit, or it will help the whole economy of the world to grow better.
The CHIP Act was that. That was a waste of money. Biden. Okay, threw money at losing companies, right, and just handed out and wrote checks to losers. That's very old industrial policy in the U.S. So now it's a much more of a collaborative approach, working directly with companies and helping them build. It's more that's the way it used to be in the U.S., right? It was much more of a public-private partnership in the U.S. And then it's like it became business versus government mentality. So I think this is a refresh approach. Get licenses. It's much more coordinated. Get licenses to the power companies because you got everybody in the same room. We need this. We need power. We need electricity. So I think it's I think it's the other. It's a great question. I think, but it's not like write checks to losing companies, which would be a failure, right? But it's more like, what do we need to build this out? And let's talk to all the layers of the supply chain.
Yeah, I don't have to confirm answer as well. It's quite tough to answer this question. And I would say that after decoupling, there's duplicated resources spending on both big countries. And it's still too early to say that it is good or bad. But of course, in short term, the efficiency will be lowered, of course, immediately. But you can see enough internet saying that internet news saying that as long as US give more pressure to China, then China will grow up with their much better product. Yes and no. I don't fully agree, but not fully disagree as well. Half, yeah.
Yeah,
it's tough to say that.
Yeah, the idea of duplicate spending and excess capacity. Yeah, that's a good point Fred made. We'll see whether it's going to be taxpayer money or whether this is privately funded money as well. We have to watch that. I think so far it's been mostly privately funded, with people getting strong-armed, right? Trump's got SoftBank's arm behind him and spend more money. So, but at some point, I think it's definitely will be a duplicate spending.
Thank you, Dan and Fred, for your insightful discussion. We covered, U.S., China, Taiwan. From a supply ecosystem point of view, my question is on Korea. What do you think of the Korean players? Do they have a better opportunity as a result of the current situation? And what segment will see the biggest growth potential?
I'll talk about hardware. I mean, my Hynix has been a great memory player. Samsung just got qualified, but I'm not. We'll see. I think the mobile ecosystem. We're going to see what Apple's going to be able to do with their AI, in their phone, yet to be seen. And Samsung potentially could be something interesting. So far, it's kind of like nice to have, but not game-changing products from Samsung. I can't really think of anything other than those two big companies. There's been a lot of small component players in Korea as well. Material, those are small caps, but I don't really invest in those.
Yeah, HBM, the high bandwidth memory, Hynix and Samsung have been leading globally in tier 1A and 1B. And one more thing, I guess, would be maybe related is the CMOS sensor. Right now, it's dominated by Sony, and Samsung's CMOS sensor has been so strong as well. So I think in case the AI glasses or other application need a lot of sensors, especially for those eyes on a device, Samsung will be benefited as well. So sensor actually to some extent is similar to memory. There is a light sensitive memory. So very close to high bandwidth memory. Yeah.
To give everyone an idea of high bandwidth memory, you ran, again, the physics, microphone here. The physics of the memory cell worn out, so they had to stack the chips on top of it. They're taking eight wafers and then they're doing lasers and stacking them.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything to do on a Saturday, go look at like high bandwidth memory. It's crazy technology.
And supplement a bit. The AI glasses, many people thinking it is an output device to as an extension of your hands. No, I think in future the AI glasses is an input device. It's not an output device. So it traces your eyeballs, it traces your emotion, it traces your hobby. So when you look at something, they are aware that you like it. So it's an input device. You can maybe scared of it, but some people would think, oh, it understands me much more than my my wife or my husband.
So that means we still should not trust Zuckerberg. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
Offline. Yeah, sorry.
I was wondering, you're sort of talking about the fairly near future, but when you think about, say, who's going to do this, so you're going to have to educate people to either work through. So you're going to have universities where you educate people in, say, America, China, wherever. So I guess one thing is, Trump is attacking universities and so on. Is that going to make a difference? Is the Chinese way of universities where I suppose, there's certain questions that can't be asked, is that going to make a difference? Or is the AI going to take over and you won't need all these people anyway because the AI will be able to work through and it doesn't really matter who's coming through the universities? Does that have any effect on the long term? What do you think?
So Fred, do you want to take a cut?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I fully understand your question, but I guess still something need to learn will be philosophy, mathematics, and theology as a question. I think these three things will help you to become wiser than before. So other topics, accumulation of knowledge is no more important. The philosophy is some sort of a way to increase it, become higher dimension instead of multi-dimension. So mathematics as well, the logic, I think still I'm not sure. So I'm not sure whether I fully understand your question.
I don't know if this answers it, but I'm just kind of thinking of I attended the Bitcoin BTC conference and this kind of idea of decentralized finance. It is kind of relating to, I think, where we're heading. I think the world can be more consensus driven. So there was a panel with Sotheby's guy that used to do art forever, and then somebody that went from Sotheby's into this NFT, which is digital art, right? And so the traditional world of art was a bunch of professors and art dealers that were experts, PhDs, and they kind of would decide what they thought the value of the art was, right? And they were in their small circle, so i.e. an elite-based system. And then with an NFT world, people are on their phones. You have to watch people under 30, to answer your question, right? Even with your portfolio, what are under 30-year-olds doing? They're kind of deciding if they like it or not, and they're buying it with their cryptocurrency. So it's a consensus-based system, in terms of art, for instance, and ethics. And I think that's going to be the only way I think this will work, is that we become consensus-based, and it's maybe like it used to be in a village, and hopefully there's enough people, around you that are giving you the right direction. And but if you start flipping that and saying we need people to supervise and say what's good and bad, then that's a slippery slope, right? So I think consensus is going to be really important. Hope that. I'm not sure if I answered your question. My personal opinion. But take a look at MIT kind of website, what they're doing, and they're trying to address this. Somebody came to me, and I think, actually, no, it was on CNBC, it was Tom Lee, who's a famous hedge fund manager. and he said, "Oh, we got to be careful with this AI because where are we trading? How are we trading? This in terms of judgment, good and bad, because it's taking everything off the internet, which is just a cesspool of good and bad, right? And so maybe we need to train this on some ethical documents, right? Would it be the Bible? Would it be the Bhagavad Gita? Would it be the Tao Te Ching? Would it be, those are interesting ideas out there. So, but culture, I think we've dealt with technology changes again and again, I tend to think this is moving slow enough that we'll be able to work through it. We've worn you all out. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Fred. Thank you to Daniel. Great discussion. Oh, one more question.
Hi, Fred. Hi, Dan. Thank you for amazing sharing. I've got a question. So, like nowadays, recently, not nowadays, many are pessimistic about Hong Kong's economic outlook. So, from a capital allocation standpoint, in the era of AI competitions and geopolitical tension, is Hong Kong's role evolving from a global financial hub or to something that is more niche? And in this era of education, in this era of economics in Hong Kong, especially now, people are putting up low consumption, low price consumptions economy, and when we are looking, when young investors like us looking into the market, the AI market in China and in US, what are the differences and what principles are we expecting to see when we are looking into AI big techs like in China, like Tencent, or when we are looking into AI big tech companies in the US, like the NVIDIA, and what are the differences or principles that we as a young investors can be looking into? And that's my question.
Partially, try best. I think localization, Hong Kong is more on application and localization. So there's a training and inference part. For training, I think Hong Kong do not have much presence and opportunities. But inference, yes. Even Europe, there's a lot of pace to, you see a lot of data center building in Europe as well. It's not for training, it's for inference. The execution, the application. So including Hong Kong, I guess. Hong Kong is maybe a site for inference. It's a remote center to speed up the communication. In China will be still the training part. The core part will be in China. Decentralized part in Hong Kong maybe to some extent.
Hong Kong's a very strong knowledge base. It's a global city. It attracts people who want to live here. Tons of people from China and talent. In my class at PolyU, I was always impressed. So it's strong in fintech. It's I think Hong Kong's got a strong role to play.
So one question, do you think we have solved the black box problem, or will it ever be solved? And it's like how we don't know how they get to their conclusions. And sometimes when they give a recommendation, the AI, and you realize when you start a new chat, they can as confidently give the opposite recommendation. And so sometimes we don't know their logic behind it. And do you think we can eventually solve the black box problem? Thank you.
You mean the deep learning black box, right? The emergence of the when the data accumulate to some point, they will have a new idea coming out. You mean, right? That black box. So far we have little clue on why the model fine-tuned many times and come out with an emergence, and this is important. Maybe can be the wisdom, can be the early stage of wisdom, maybe. So far, I think you can take reference to Roger Penrose, one Nobel Prize winner, and he talked about. He always criticized that artificial intelligence should not be classified as intelligence. But of course, they have another view about conscious body, and maybe he may give us some hints on that. But so far, I don't think the black box
So all the AI is doing is going at scraping, and it's just statistics, right? That this word follows this word, and that's the answer it gives you. So it's not. So what a lot of startups are doing, I've seen one, actually I started subscribing to their service, is this. We are getting answers from just these sources, and they have 100 and they add these sources in, rather than the entire internet. And then and you pay a subscription for that, and they're adding in services as we go. So if it's trained, once you isolate your training data to some and do your own due diligence there's workarounds on this. And so it's huge number of, still a lot of growth in that as companies can narrow the data set. It's not as though you have to throw away the baby with the bathwater, right?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Daniel. And fascinating discussion. And thank to all of you for coming out tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck.